Okay, good afternoon all. So, so in the previous session, we discussed about Ethereum and the contracts present in it. So we discussed how smart contracts evolved into this and how was Ethereum more efficient than Bitcoin blockchain network. I once again recap that the founder of Ethereum was Vitalik Buterin. So in Ethereum, in the last session, we also found that the usage of smart contracts and how we can test it in our local environment in order to be battle tested to deploy it in a real blockchain environment. So today's session, before starting into the main technological terms, I would like to give you a brief idea about the Solidity language and some important terms related to that. Let me share my screen. Hope I am audible to every one of you.
Yes, sir,
Let me
audible.
know if you are having
Yes,
some.
sir, it is audible.
Okay, now you will be seeing my screen. Let me go to the slide that I have prepared. So I once again welcome you all to the part 4 of Blockchain Explained. In this session, as I told you, we will be dealing with some more details in how the Solidity language works and the important terminologies or function parameters which are present in Solidity. Like a normal language that you write to code something, Solidity have some basic features also. After that, we will discuss more about the real Ethereum networks available in the current world. For that, we need Ethereum clients to deploy our smart contract or whatever our project is. We need proper Ethereum clients. We will discuss the main and important Ethereum client known as Geth. So with that, we will today create a private Ethereum blockchain in our system. We will conclude this session, today's session, with introducing a framework called Truffle. With that, you can deploy our smart contracts developed in our local system to that private Ethereum blockchain. So for connecting our Geth environment to the public Ethereum blockchain, we need to do some code tweaks. So we are not connecting anything to the public Ethereum blockchain right now. We are just doing a demo version in our private Ethereum blockchain. So welcome all to the part 4 of Blockchain Explained. We will continue by discussing solidity in detail. The first concept is you might all have noticed that after every transaction that is made from the contract or what every call made from the contract, we got some information about that transaction. So those are called logs and receipts. Ethereum has logs to make it possible to track various transactions and messages. As we saw in the earlier smart contract, we got the transaction information, the data transmitted, we got every details of that, including the timestamp. So a contract can explicitly generate a log by defining events that it wants to log. So we noted a add what event was initialized, and in the log also we were able to see that add event log was shown to us. So basically, a log entry contains the logger's account address. That was our first address that we used. The second thing will be a series of topics that represent various events carried out by this transaction. In that earlier transaction receipt that we saw, you might remember some details that include what and when it is involved in the transaction, including how much gas it was used and how much excess gas was used for this approval of transaction. And also data associated with these events are also shown in the logs. So logs stored in the header come from the log information contained in the transaction receipt. So we got a transaction receipt in which logs are being entered into that. Ethereum generates a receipt for every transaction. Similar to like logs that works for events, we have also receipt for every transaction. Each receipt contains certain information about the transaction. The receipt includes items like block number, block hash, transaction hash, gas used by the current transaction, cumulative gas used in the current block after the current transaction has executed, logs created when executing the current transaction. So the total result we got after doing a transaction is called a receipt. Inside that, there are logs. Logs can be defined by events mentioned in the smart contract. One of the example that we saw was add vote. So we got the log as depicted in the name of events in the receipt. So totally, we got the receipt as a result of our transaction that we made in the blockchain. For every transaction, we will get the proper receipt which have many details that you would like to view the entire block, view the entire transaction, view your hash. So every information will be listed in the receipt about the transaction. Now let's discuss something about the variables used in the smart contracts. Normally, like in a coding environment, like we use variables, there are state variables that can be defined inside a smart contract using some data types. So there are many data types available like in a normal JavaScript and in the Solidity. Some of them are Boolean, integer, string, address, enum, function, array, struct, and mapping. So these are some of the data types that are present in the Solidity. Address, you must remember from the key value pairs of the Ethereum accounts. We discussed that the key was a 20-byte string which represented the account address. It is declared as an address and holds a 20-byte value. That is the size of an Ethereum address. And explaining about struct, some of the other common used will be, you already will be knowing. So coming to the point of struct, a struct data type is a group of multiple data types combined together. Solidity provides a way to define new types in the form of structs. So these data types, a function have, a variable can have this much of data types in Solidity. But a contract is initiated among a whole network. Is there any particular reason why data types should have a visibility function such that a contract is only needed when it is happening in the backend? So everyone doesn't need to know or doesn't need to bother about what is happening in the backend. You will get all the information happening through the receipt and logs. So a state variable defining inside the Solidity algorithm or the Solidity code have some visibility types. So we are discussing about the visibility for functions and state variables. There are 4 types of visibility types present for a state variable, which are public, private, internal, and external. In the earlier smart contract, which I can share you for your future references. In that, you can see state variables defined in the proper format, which is visibility type in the beginning, which can be public, private, internal, or external. Then comes the data type, then comes the variable name. Every state variable should be denoted by like this, with having a proper data type and a proper visibility type. The public visibility type is, if a state variable is defined as public, then it can be accessed from outside the contract namespace. In other words, it can be accessed from any other contract on the network. So whatever function we write in our smart contract, if we make it public, then other smart contracts can access those functions which are written, or the access the variables which are written in that particular visibility type. While taking the case of private visibility functions, if a state variable is defined as private, then it can be accessed only inside the smart contract. So there you have the difference of both. Even if you import this contract in some other contract, so importing contracts is another topic. Like, we can import different contracts to each other. So if we inherit, if we have to inherit some properties of a common contract that is agreed by everyone in the network, we can inherit some properties to another smart contract. And but if the functions are written as a visibility of private, we can't do that. That is a sentence. If you import the contract in some other contract, the state variable with private visibility cannot be used from the contract inheriting the parent contract. So that's the difference between public and a private visibility type. The next one is a variable which is initialized in the visibility type internal. These are variables which can be used from the contract in which it is defined, or the contract inheriting the properties of the parent contract. With an example, I can explain you that. So if a contract A inherits contract B, then it can use the variables in B with the internal visibility type, but not with the private visibility type. I'll repeat. If a contract A inherits a contract B, then it can use the variables in B with the internal visibility type, but not with the private visibility type. That is the difference between a private and an internal. The variables with public visibility can be used by any contract on the network. So these are the three main visibility functions, visibility types for the functions. And the fourth one is external. So why we need this much of visibility types? So as whenever a smart contract is initiated, we need some private visibility functions or variables that only need to be within the contract. If it is allowed to be public, that will contradict the fact that whenever an anonymous person tries to inherit the same contract and manipulate it, but from the starting itself, Ethereum is providing, or Solidity is providing that action not to happen. So external access won't be there. The external visibility type can only be called from other contracts and via transactions only. It also cannot be called internally. There also is a case of external data types that are needed. For example, if a variable is initiated, so as an incentive mechanism is initiated in a smart contract, but the incentive should be given to another smart contract, so that the external data type, external visibility data type contracts only. it doesn't need to be called inside the proper contract. It can be called from the outside also. So for an example, including the visibility type, I can define a variable name like public is a visibility type. Data type, we can give uint or integer, and variable name we can give anything, voting member, voting candidate, or anything, or any variable name. So those are the four visibility functions which are present inside the Solidity. Now we will have to discuss these terms I am explaining is because whenever you try your own for maintaining or for writing your own smart contract for your usage, you must know these particular functions or visibility types so that on your own you can develop and some basic knowledge is already occurred. The next thing I am going to discuss is the types of function. So there are different types of function which are available in Solidity because we can mention some function as a payable function such that it pays some or the entities involved in it will get paid. So certain functions we can separate on the basis of these four. There is mainly view, pure, payable, and fallback. So view function type means that the function only reads from the contract and will not perform any kind of writing operations. So every read operation is completely free in the blockchain network. But every write operation, there is some charges for that. So if we enter a function in the type called view, it only acts as a read function. It can't even act as a write operation. So a view function does not consume any amount of gas. Hence, if your function is meant to only read data from the blockchain and not write anything, then you will need to make sure that you define your function type as view. Otherwise, the function will end up using some amount of gas. That is the definition for a view function. Now we can look into the pure data function. This function type means that the function will never read or write anything on the smart contract. They are called helper functions. For example, math functions is a good example for pure type of functions. Math equations, math functions, if we use, it doesn't need to be charging any individual for that operation. It only, the smart contract should only avail or deduct from any individual for the transaction request made for that. The pure function will perform some mathematical calculation and return the final completed value. However, these functions neither read from the blockchain nor write to it. So you have two types of functions in which view is where it only reads from the smart contract, but it doesn't write anything to the smart contract or the functionality. Whereas pure is that it doesn't read nor write, it only does calculations according to the values that are entering the smart contract. The next one is payable functions. Only the functions defined as payable can take ethers as input. That means if a function is defined as payable and we are making a contract call or a transaction like an event, just we had in the example, add vote. So if the function is made as payable, then only it can take ethers as input. Hence, if you are sending ethers to a smart contract, you need to make sure that it is only those functions that are defined as payable. So you need to check whether it is a payable smart contract and a payable function, then only you need to pay that smart contract. Otherwise, if it is a view function, if it is a pure function, you don't need to pay any ethers to access the smart contract. Sending ethers, I'm now telling the vice versa of the payable here. So we don't have to send ether to a non-payable function. Similarly, we have fallback. Fallback function, its definition is if an incoming transaction call does not match any of the functions defined in the smart contract, then the call will be directed towards the fallback function. It is properly and commonly known in normal coding languages what a fallback function is. If an incoming transaction call does not match any of the functions, the call will be directed towards the fallback function. So that fallback function, for that, if there is a call for a function that doesn't exist, the call will be fall to fallback function. This is exactly one fallback function in every contract. Since if any error happens or if any call happens to an undefined function, it should return to the fallback function, which is some errors or something. And also, this function cannot have arguments and cannot return anything. It is not mandatory to, and by default, every function is allowed to make changes to the blockchain. Here in the slide, you can see how a function can be defined. A function can be defined as function with a function name, and in brackets we give the argument and we mention visibility type, function type, and modifiers with returns any error or return a data type. Now we network, which help us smart contracts. Capture the properties of the messages. Okay, sorry, the call got disconnected in between, and I was not knowing of that. Sorry for that. Since I'm on full screen, I can't see what's happening on the Google Meet. Sorry for the interruption. Can I continue my session? Is everyone?
Yes, sir. Not an
Okay, okay.
yes. You can.
So if any further disconnecting happens, somebody just connect me through WhatsApp or anything and let me know. Okay. So from which topic did I miss or did I got disconnected? Can someone please tell me from which portion did I got disconnected? Can somebody tell me? Have I covered the introduction part in which we discussed of Ethereum networks after fallback functions? Oh, no. Oh, so you didn't got the global functions, right? Okay, fallback functions. So after fallback functions, you guys didn't hear anything, right? Okay. Yes, sir. Fallback functions. Okay. So let's continue from there. We mentioned different types of functions. Is it okay if I continue like this since full screen is like messing around?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So over here we discussed different types of functions in which view, viewer, payable, and fallback came. So I hope fallback was explained. Let me recap it for you. Yeah, fallback is a function where if an incoming transaction call does not match any of the function defined in the smart contract, then the call will be directed towards the fallback function. Such type of function can be also initialized inside a smart contract. So this is how, in this figure, you can see how a solidity function can be defined. There are function name, in brackets, arguments, if any, visibility type, function type, modifiers to the function, if any, returns a particular data type, which can be errors or anything. So we can move on to the global functions present. So there are three main global functions in which we will discuss one more extra global function that you must know. The main important things are message.value, message.sender. This function returns the number of way that was sent with the message or the transaction. In the last example, we saw that some of the transaction was having the value as 0, as no amount was paid to the smart contract. Only to make the transaction valuable, we send some gas to it. Similarly, message.sender. This function returns the immediate sender of the message or the transaction. And message.sender returns the address of the previous account in the flow of the message. For that, we can take the example of three variables or three contracts. If A sends the message to B and then B is forwarding that to C, C calls the message.sender function on that particular message from B. It will receive the address of B as the return value. I'll explain again. If A is sending a message to B and he is forwarding to C, if C types message.sender in their console or their in what you call application layer, he will get who sent him that message with the proper address. There are other global functions which are important, which is one among of that is now. This particular function returns the timestamp when the last block in the blockchain was created. So we will get to know the block creation rate and the last block created time. The block creation rate in Ethereum is approximately 12 seconds that we already discussed. The timestamp returned will be approximately 15 to 30 seconds prior to the current time. So that's how now functions return the timing, and the timestamp returned by now is the number of milliseconds since the Unix epoch time. It will display us the time in milliseconds since the epoch, first epoch. The epoch means, like in a year, we have era. Epoch is the 30,000 blocks being created on top of any blockchain. It is called epoch. This term is mainly used in Ethereum. So the timestamp returned by now function is the number of milliseconds since the Unix epoch time. The next important one is that you must know, because I'm not mentioning it here, but you must know whenever you are accessing a smart contract, as the name suggests, self-destruct function is used by a contract to destroy or kill itself. You need to pass an address as an argument to the function. All the balance ethers that are present on the contract account will be transferred to the account with the above address. So you can check whether a smart contract is having a function with the self-destruct data type or a global function defined in the form of self-destruct. So it will be containing an address to which all the ethers will be transferred if that smart contract is killed or updated over. So every blockchain will have smart contracts or will have some logic behind it. That logic, if someday the developer thinks that it needs to be written over, or we learn that anything written into the blockchain can't be edited or altered. So whatever we need to do is write new things. So while initiating a smart contract is itself, the self-destruct function enables some developers to update in the future. Whatever happens with the logic, or if there is a period of time where this logic exists, after that he can add new logics with a new smart contract, and all the ethers will be maintained by transferring the ethers balance to that account whenever that smart contract is killed or destructed. So that is the four main global functions you must know while interacting with smart contracts and the blockchain. Moving on to the main topic, which is Ethereum networks. So Ethereum networks is a blockchain built of multiple nodes. The multiple nodes across the world controls the Ethereum. Moreover, these nodes can exist anywhere in the world. Together, they constitute the
Excuse
Ethereum
me, sir.
network.
Excuse me, sir. Kindly make it full screen, sir.
Yeah.
The slides.
O- Okay. Okay. Last time when I full screened, I didn't get to know that the call was disconnected. So that's why we have put it in normal mode. So whenever I will put it in full screen, so whenever I'm getting disconnected, please let me know through WhatsApp call, or Mr. Ajinkya will assist with me that. So
Kindly
let's
put your
continue in full
number, sir,
screen.
on the chat so that we can inform.
Okay, it's in the last slide. One second. Please note down this and let me know if I'm getting disconnected since I'm on full screen. Is fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can I continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ethereum networks. But there will be multiple such Ethereum networks. What will happen and how will we identify those? They are, let me conclude one thing. They are totally independent of each other and they are identified by a unique parameter called chain ID. So whenever an individual thinks that they need their Ethereum network or they need to connect to the Ethereum network through their logic or define new blockchain environment with a special smart contract, they can initiate it as a new chain ID and a new Ethereum network so that they are interconnected so that they are not at all having any connection between each other and totally independent among them. So let me discuss some of the main and important Ethereum's major networks and chain IDs. In this list, you can see that the Ethereum main network, which is having the Ether as a proper cryptocurrency and it records cryptocurrency transactions, many data going through that, and multiple things happening in that Ethereum main network. So that network is having a network ID of 1 and a chain ID of 1. Similarly, there is a network called Ropsten. In Ropsten, there it uses the same principle or consensus mechanism as Ethereum, that is Ethash proof of work, and it is having a network ID and chain ID as 3. So while in the coming session, you will get to know why I am mentioning such network IDs and test networks. So we will be testing on these networks to connect to. And moving on, the Ringkaby network is an Ethereum test network which works on the consensus proof of activity. So according to Ringkaby, the network ID and chain ID is 4. Then we can move on to Coven. The Coven network also is the same network or uses the same consensus mechanism, which is having a network ID of 42 and a chain ID of 42. So these are the major Ethereum's network and chain IDs.
How do we differentiate, sir, on the basis of their application?
Yeah, so while using or while connecting from your application end to the networks, we must define a Genesis block. So we have different applications, right? So we don't want to connect to any other network where there are many lot of applications. So for testing purposes, Ethereum have initiated many test network like Ropsten, Ringkaby, and Coven. And while creating Genesis blocks, we must mention the network ID to which we are connecting. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the question is, how will we connect to that clients or the multiple Ethereum network? So each network consists of several interconnected nodes. As I said, to connect to a network, you need to be aware of the chain ID of that network because you can only refer to the network using the network's unique chain ID. After this, you need to become a node for that network, then work accordingly. Whatever the logic is, whatever smart contract is written in that. So the chain ID is the main thing which you have to note while connecting any of your application to the Ethereum blockchain. For using the Ethereum clients, you need to download that Ethereum client in your machine. Today's example we are going to do, and we are going to download an Ethereum client on my machine and then connect to a network through that. So we have our own private blockchain. So in our private blockchain, there is no one in that. So similarly, we have to create a private Ethereum blockchain network using a Ethereum client. The Ethereum client concept is important because you can connect only to a network as a application. So Ethereum developers did not create an Ethereum client. So they didn't create a particular Ethereum client that can be used. So instead, they released a yellow paper called protocol. In that, anyone can create their own version of Ethereum client using the instruction mentioned in the protocol. So I will explain some of the most popular Ethereum clients which are present or which are considered as the popular implementations as Ethereum clients. The main one Ethereum, which is also pronounced as Geth. The other Ethereum. So Go Ethereum is one of the oldest and most popular Ethereum clients and is implemented in Go language. Pardon? Hello? Is everything all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I heard something so that I got distracted. Okay, the popular Ethereum client implementations are Go Ethereum, Parity, and CPP Ethereum. Parity, while it is implemented in the language called Rust, while CPP Ethereum, or it is called Aleph, is implemented in C++, thereby the name CPP Ethereum. One more important or another popular Ethereum client is named as Trinity. Sees you as an Ethereum client. It refers to any node able to pass and verify the blockchain, the smart contracts and everything related. So anyone, so it will be checking only whether you are able to verify and implement allows or provides interfaces to create transactions and mine blocks, which is a key for any blockchain interaction. With that, we are going to implement or write a new private Ethereum blockchain or create a private Ethereum blockchain using Geth client, and inside that we will interact and create transactions and mine blocks so that you will get a better understanding. So before that, some more concepts need to be discussed, like what is a Geth, how to interact, how are we going to see Geth as an entity, and what connects that entity to our local system. So before that, I would like to take a 5 minutes break with all your permission.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we'll go on a break and we'll continue in 5 minutes. Welcome back. Can we start the session?
Yes, sir, we can start.
Okay. So we were discussing about Ethereum clients and Ethereum networks. So over there, let me share my screen. You're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir, yes. Visible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we were discussing about the popular Ethereum client implementations such as Go Ethereum, Parity, and CPP Ethereum. Let's move on to the next topic, which is Web3.js. It is some collection of libraries which allow you to interact with a local or remote Ethereum node using a protocol connection. The protocol can be HTTP or IPC protocol. So Web3.js, don't misunderstand anything with JavaScript. It is a collection of libraries which allow you to interact with the local or remote Ethereum node. This library interacts with the Ethereum blockchain. It can retrieve user accounts, send transactions, interact with smart contracts, and much more. So in this figure, we have a web browser with a client application running as part of our smart contract. And we need to connect that to the local environment or Ethereum main network. So for that, we need Ethereum clients and Web3.js libraries and a proper network connection through a HTTP or IPC protocol connection. So moving on to so hope you understood the concept of Web3.js. It is a collection of libraries which allows you to interact with your smart contract to retrieve user accounts, send transactions, interact with smart contracts, and much more. With that, we have an extension called MetaMask to easily communicate with the contract. I mentioned retrieve user accounts, send transactions. So for that, through our browser itself, we can send transaction to the blockchain directly. So installing a MetaMask extension in your Chrome browser will help you easily communicate with the local test network implemented contract, or if it is in a Ethereum network, real Ethereum network, you can take the help of MetaMask extension. MetaMask extension and usage will be discussed tomorrow. Same session will be continued. And moving on more into the demo part, just a brief in the Go Ethereum part, we are using it in the coming demo session. Go Ethereum is available as a standalone CLI client called Geth. So we are using Geth, and for using Geth, you can connect to any Ethereum network, any Ethereum network. Geth is a program which serves as a node for the Ethereum blockchain. So whenever I am connecting my system to the Ethereum blockchain to any network, I need Geth. So Geth is a program which serves as a node for the Ethereum blockchain. And I can mine Ether and create software which run on the EVM. That means our smart contract. We can initialize that smart contract in this get, so that the smart contract that we wrote as a sample can be initialized or deployed in the private Ethereum blockchain network through Geth. For that, we have to go into the demo session. Now, let me tell you a brief about Genesis block and the structure of it. Then we will directly move on to the demo session. It is having such a data structure over here. This is a code, or this is the initializing instruction for a private blockchain Ethereum client like Geth to initialize a new Ethereum blockchain network in our private local system. So now I am going to make this Genesis block, and from that we are able to connect to a private Ethereum blockchain network. After creating that, I will explain each and every component, that is alloc, config, chain ID, EIP 150 block, difficulty, gas limit, nonce, mix hash, Coinbase, parent hash. Don't get confused by any of this. I'll just show you the usage of it, and then you will get to know easily how it works and what it depicts. Give me a moment to make the demo session available for you. So we are getting out of the slide part. So for that, first I need to open any code editor in which I have created a basic folder, simple folder which I made in my desktop. I can show you the okay. So here I am making a new folder called Geth. I'll get inside that and open a Visual Studio Code over here. Like Visual Studio Code is a code editor commonly used by developers, and many such code editors are available. So now I have opened the Visual Studio Code in my system. Inside that folder, simply, I need to make a file called genesis.json. So this is our Genesis file, and with which we are going to make a private network. Let me copy paste that Genesis block from the slide. So I have made that Genesis file. I haven't typed it. I have copy pasted it from that source file. So over here, we are mentioning the chain ID. So whatever chain ID you think in your mind, you can enter it. Let it be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So fine. We'll make an Ethereum network using Geth client with this Genesis block. For that, you need to open a terminal or a command line where you can enter commands as I am going to show you. Prior to this experiment or prior to this demo, I have already installed Geth in my system using some commands. If you are interested, I will share that commands to you and so that you can try this in your system step by step. Prior to this demo, I have already installed Geth client in my system. That can be done through the terminal, and I'm using Ubuntu 16.04. Now we are going to initialize a network with this Genesis block. We will initialize that like get data directory with initializing data directory inside this the Genesis file that we just wrote. Okay. So what happens here is we are creating a folder called data directory that consists of chain data, all the data that will be stored in my system in this particular data directory folder. So we are initializing a private network with this JSON file, genesis.json file, JavaScript object notation file. Some of you might be knowing, just only for your reference. So I'm creating a Genesis file. So I have connected to the network, and over here we can see that a Genesis state have been initialized. Here in the last line, we can see that successfully wrote Genesis state. Hash of that state particular block is represented over here. Then we need to get inside that blockchain or private network. So for that, we need to initialize a command called get data dir. There is a folder name. So over here you can see that it created a private chain data for our blockchain. This is where our chain data or entire blockchain data will be going to be entered. Now let's move on to making or entering that console. Like that. Now we have to mention network ID also, so that we are getting connected to the particular network. We can give it as 1, 2, 3, 4, then get inside the console. So that lead to letting us inside the private Ethereum blockchain. So over here you can see many processes happening in the backend since we initiated the proper private Ethereum blockchain network with the help of Ethereum client called Geth. So Geth is already making processes to maintain that particular network. That is over here. We can see it is looking for peers. So if there is any other peers, like I have created 1, 2, 3, 4, some other people have already connected to that particular network. So we don't have to worry about that. Now I'm going to do a process that might exhaust my computational facility, and before that we need to create some accounts inside this. We have already in the remix environment, we saw many accounts with hundreds of ethers for testing purposes. That is inside JavaScript VM. That was inside JavaScript virtual machine. But now we are inside the private Ethereum blockchain network. So now we need to create accounts with some password and private keys. We can check on that. Is everyone able to see that bottom line?
Sir, actually your screen is not properly visible. Means it is
Okay.
visible, but we cannot see each and every line. I we cannot read it.
Okay.
I just zoomed and read.
Pardon?
I just zoomed and read it.
Okay. Okay. Now can you see that? I have minimized it. Now you are able to see. Screen
Sir,
is
actually your
not
screen
readable.
is already visible. Letters are not visible properly.
Okay, that's because the terminal is having many data in that. So that I don't know why you are not able to view that. Uh, if I reduce the screen size, it is visible, or the terminal size, is it visible?
Yes, sir. And all the participants, please answer if you are able to visible it or not.
Okay, now it displays looking for
Yeah, it's
peers.
visible.
Okay, okay,
We
okay.
can
Thank
we
you.
can zoom the terminal screen. We are able to zoom your terminal screen also, so
Okay,
that
okay, fine.
small letters would be bigger.
Okay, you can zoom. From my end, if I enlarge it, you won't be able to see my full screen. That's why.
No, no, we are able to enlarge it. Other participants can also enlarge it by
Okay,
zooming
okay.
it.
So please do zoom it as you can read it and understand what is happening. So I am going to create accounts, that is externally owned accounts I am going to create. So for that, we have commands, or we have proper rules, set of rules that was earlier mentioned by developers in the, we learned that the developers created one protocol where everything is written, and what was that message, where everything was written in order to on your screen. Okay, my screen or your screen. Okay. With that you
No, no,
can,
participants screen.
okay, 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 understood that. So with that commands we can create and interact with the blockchain. So for that, personal dot, we are creating a new account with a password. We can say I'll write my name. So for that, creation of account will take some time, and my system will use my computational facility and enable a new account with the password Arjun. So let's wait. It will take some time. According to my system only, every system will not have the same speed. So according to your system, you have more computational facility, it will be more easier.
Sir, we can get some tutorial like how to create a network and how to do this administrative commands.
Pardon?
We can get the tutorial like how to create an Ethereum network and how to do this administrative commands like creating account and all. Will we give
Yeah,
you
yeah.
notes step by step?
Yeah, I can share. Yeah, I can share the step-by-step instructions so that you can also follow. But on this live session, if I make you do this, everyone won't be able to catch up. So that's why I am doing from my part and showing you guys. Is that fine?
Yeah, for now it's fine. Like for later if we can get the notes.
Yeah. By the end of the session itself, I will share the notes, and you can on your own create private blockchain networks in your system, but you have to install get clients and all. For that, commands I will share you so that you can easily work on your own. Now just understand what I am doing, and I will demonstrate from my end.
Fine, thank you, sir.
Okay, so now in the screen you might be able to see that my account with a proper address there I have selected it, and you can see that address is ending with 3FBA. PPT will be shared with you all after completion of session. No, ma'am. PPT, in the PowerPoint presentation, there is nothing. There is contents
Okay.
that I need to
Okay.
talk about.
Okay. So can I write notes there?
Yeah, proper command and notes will be shared. You can tell the participants that.
Okay. Okay. All right, sir.
Okay. So now I have created an externally owned account with the password Arjun and an account address the system have automatically generated. So this is my account address. I will copy that for further usages. And after that, we need to set that this account is the main core account which I am going to use in my network. So for that, we have a command miner dot. So every ether will be coming to my account, my this made account. So we have to set it like that. Ether base with the new account address. So that give me a result called true. So that address, particular account address is set as my Etherbase account. That means whatever mining I have done, that will be produced, or that reward will be collected to this account. Now you will be having a doubt that how will we know the balance? For that, we have a command eth dot get balance and mention the account ID. So I'm not sure you are able to view this or not, but here in the display screen, it is displayed as 0. So my balance in this account is now 0. So I will show you now how a transaction is made and how a mining is made. So before that, we need to create one more account, right? So in this proper private network, there is only one account, that is my account. I need to create one more account. So we will create with the same procedure, that is creating another account with the command called personal.new account. Yes. So I have created a second account with the password test, and the account address is shown. It is saying that please remember your password. That means the password that I have given already, test, and the account address is this. So now we have two accounts. Do we need to check the balance of the second account before making a proper transaction? We will check. th dot get. So these are the many options available. So we can check eth.getBalance, which block by hash and block by number. Everything we can interact with the private blockchain network. And this is the specialty of Get. This is a client which provides proper commands for every interaction with the blockchain. So we were typing get balance of the second account, right? 8D, D8E, D8E, and we can check the balance. It is also mentioned as 4. Over here in the red color, you can see it as, sorry, 4, not 4. It is mentioned as 0. So both accounts are having no balance inside them. So we can make a simulated mining inside this network. Okay, so that these accounts have some balance to transfer among them. It is mining something. Something means mining a logic, a particular logic which is written in the private blockchain. That is it. We haven't initiated any contracts for that. So for that, we need to start the mining process. Mining process means validating blocks, validating transactions, such processes. So we are not having any transactions. To make transaction, we need some balance. So for that, we will get some reward from the network itself by just entering miner.start. So this will initiate a small mining process, but it is a computationally higher uh, this is a computationally excessive process, so that the connection internet, according to the internet connection, my system capacity, system facilities, features, the network will mine its own nodes. So let's see what happens. This call might be getting disconnected due to the huge amount of internet that's going to be used. So yeah, it is happening in the background. Am I audible right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, most of my computational facility is being used, and in the background I can't do anything. So it be there and let the mining process happen. So I initialized this get network using a Genesis block. So I will explain what all components were there inside that Genesis block. So there is a component called alloc. It allows defining a list of pre-filled valets. So since we didn't do that, that's because it will alter the network already and it will take more time to create that Genesis block. So without initializing any accounts with balance, we were able to create easily that particular Ethereum blockchain network. If we had defined pre-filled wallets, it would be more easy. But the process of creating that Genesis block and a private blockchain network will be taking the same amount of time. So that's why I left the pre-filled wallet column as empty. So there was also a feature of difficulty. For your reference, I can share that file with you and you can, in the meantime, watch that and follow my explanation. Because of that process, now I am able to shift to many tabs very slowly. Excuse me for that. Okay, I have entered that Genesis block completely in the Google chat. Please check on that and I'm going to describe each and every one of them. So the difficulty, it is mentioned as 0 into 400. It is a skill corresponding to the difficulty level applied during the nonce discovering of the block. Mining calculated from the previous block's difficulty level and timestamp. The higher the difficulty, the statistically more calculations a miner must perform to discover a valid block. The value is used to control the block generation time of a blockchain. So if this difficulty is much lesser it will be more easier for such a private Ethereum blockchain to work. But we need mining to happen as near to real and show you the tedious process behind this. That's why the consensus and the difficulty was set to a 400 value. I could have reduced it, but the tedious process you have to understand how much time it takes to mine or how much process it takes to validate a transaction or to mine in a blockchain. So this value is used to control the block generation time of a blockchain, keeping the block generation frequency within a target range. On the test network, we keep this value low to avoid waiting during test, since the discovery of a valid block is required to execute a transaction on a blockchain. So why we did that miner.start command? We need to discover a valid block. Even though that block is having nothing in it, we can consider it as a genesis block. It has some protocols written inside it. So that block we are trying to find it. That's why it's taking too much time. We have the other concept called gas limit. It is also a scalar value equal to the current chain-wide limit of gas expenditure per block. It is high in our case to avoid being limited by this threshold during test. So I have put a higher value since we don't want to be exhausted by whenever making a transaction, we don't need to be exhausted and making the transaction fail. Then comes the concept of nonce. As you all know, nonce is the cryptographically secure mining proof of work that proves beyond reasonable doubt that a particular amount of computation has been expended in the determination of this token value. The nonce in the transactions means that it is a counter kind of thing, but when it comes to a block, it mentions the difficulty or the cryptographically secure mining proof of work algorithm that is denoted by this number. Then comes the concept of mix hash. It is a 256-bit hash which proves, combined with the nonce, that a sufficient amount of computation has been carried out on this block. The combination of nonce and mix hash must satisfy a mathematical condition. It allows to verify that block has really been cryptographically mined, thus from this aspect is valid. So to make a valid block acceptance, the nonce and mix hash should be combined in order to match the difficulty level of the proof of work. Similarly, the Coinbase is a 160-bit address to which all rewards will be collected from the successful mining of a block. In that example, we set that the first account as the mining account or the Coinbase account while entering the particular get client network. The next thing is parent hash. It is a hashing algorithm which is used in Ethereum, and the name of the hashing algorithm was Keccak or KECCAK. That it is a 256-bit hash of the entire parent block header, including its nonce and mix hash. It also points to the parent block, thus effectively building the chain of blocks. In the case of a genesis block, and only in this case, it is considered as 0. Otherwise, in coming blocks, the parent hash will be the hash of the previous block, hash of the immediate previous block, and it will be notified in the parent hash field. More data can be entered into the genesis block like extra data, timestamp. So every data have its own value and its own usage. First of all, we mentioned while mentioning a get client, we specified where we want to store our blockchain data that we entered like in the previous folder and all. The network ID is where we referenced which network we want to connect to. So that's the definition and components present in the consensus, Genesis block. And the EIP 150 block is the IPs, Ethereum IPs, which we are connecting to, to make our test network better. Now I'm going to check whether is there any mining process happened. Yes, mining have been done. I'll show you. I'll share my screen now. Okay, finally mining have been done. So after a tedious process, I hope you are able to see my screen. Please respond if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So over here, we mined some valid blocks or simple empty blocks and got some way in our Etherbase account. So this was my first account, FBA, ends with FBA. And let's check the balance of the other account. It is still 0. So we have some amount in our first account, and now we are making a transaction, a real transaction, not a real one, a simulated transaction which happens in our private blockchain. But this is the same process happening inside the real blockchain also. So now we are going to make a transaction. For that, we need to unlock both accounts, giving access with our private key to sign transactions and send that particular amount from one account to other account. So for that, so you will be having a doubt that what happens if we don't unlock any accounts. So that doubt will be cleared. I'll type it now. So let's copy it. Send for balance from one to other in the transaction. We have to mention the from address, and ETH dot accounts. The first account I'm mentioning over here to the second account which I have created. Second account, which I think you know how I mentioned 0 and 1. 0 means the first one and 1 means the second one. So we need to mention a value also. Value will be should be converted from the through the Web3.js library. So to way, how much do we want to send? Let's say 100 page. We'll send 100 way first, then we'll check. Okay, let's see what happens. So you have seen an error. That means authentication needed, password or unlock. So here you have the answer. Without unlocking every account, we can't send signed transactions from one account to other. So we'll see how to unlock a particular account. That is very simple. Personal dot commands are very simple as the word also speaks the meaning. We are simply typing personal dot unlock account and we need the account ID, which is the first FBA. Okay, the first account this is, and we are unlocking that by entering our password also. So now we will be unlocking the first account. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it gave us a result called true. Now let's unlock the second account. It must receive that transaction. And after mining only, this balance will get deducted. That I will show you. We need to take the address of the second also. So I am scrolling up a bit and copying the second address. The balance is still 0. Okay. I'm typing personal dot. If you enter tab, you will get what all options are there. So if there are many options, it will take some time to view. But instead of that, I am directly entering unlock account. And what was the password of that account? I remember it as. We are going to unlock the second account also. Yeah, we got the result as true. As I interrupted with my cursor keys, that's why it's displaying that symbols. Don't worry. So we have now unlocked both accounts. Now we can try to send that 100 way from one account, from my first account to the other one by the command eth.send transaction from account first account, which is mentioned as 0, zeroth element of the array, and to the second account, which is the second account that we have created. That is 100 way we are trying to send. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now we have, I'll zoom it or to view that in a full screen. So this have details like a new local account, which in the name FBA, which is my private account, externally owned account, and it have submitted a transaction. So here they displayed a transaction hash for our particular transaction made with 100 way. Now we can check again the balance if you have doubt. If it have already agreed or written in the blockchain. Let's check the balance. FBA. It's still the same, like you denote by the 5 and multiple zeros. Let's check the balance of second account also. It is still 0. Now we have to again mine. What we learned in the process, we learned that we have to submit a transaction request. Then every node in the network will validate it. Or we are here simulating the mining process from our own system. Since we don't have any other system working in the same network, I am simulating that mining process in this system itself from the get client itself. So we'll simulate that mining process. So again, my system will slow down. So don't worry, I'll be back if the mining process has completed. So here you can see committing new mining work. Let the mining happen. That this will take some time.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Not audible, sir.
No,
Earlier.
I am not telling anything. I am waiting for the mining process to get over our transaction. So if I am using more internet, the mining process will not be able to process correctly. So that's why I have disconnected my audio.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Please wait. This is a tedious process, as I have told you. Real process we can't even imagine by using a single laptop. It might require many systems, and for that example you can just simply search a mining field of Ethereum or Bitcoin in the internet in the meantime, and you can understand how a mining process is happening and how much systems are needed. So in the meantime you can please go to your browser window, search mining farms of Bitcoin, and you can see over there many mining factories. Like there are millions and hundreds of computers connected each other to mine a single block or verify many transactions. So please go to your browser and search for mining farms of Bitcoin. You will be able to understand why I am taking so much time to show a sample. So the I hope the mining process is done. Let's check. Yeah. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. So over here, we have made a transaction request, and for that transaction request, mining is happening, and it it is continuously showing the same result, and it has already said that mined a potential block. Now we can stop the mining process and then check the block have been validated or not. Miner by miner.stop command, and let's check the balance. See, the balance of my second account, no, first account, which is a primary account, have been deducted with the amount of 100 way and some transaction fee plus processing fee that you have already learned in the morning session. Let's check the balance of the second account. The 100 way is successfully transferred from my first account to the second account. So this was the example I was preparing to show you. Sorry for taking your valuable time. Hope you understood how a transaction works and how tedious a process of mining is. By only using my personal laptop, it is taking this much time. So consider whenever it goes to a huge blockchain network, but comparative to the Bitcoin blockchain network, it only takes a transaction or a block validation time as 12 seconds. So please understand, and this is only a sample demo code that I have prepared to show you. Hope you understand the concepts. And I would like to introduce one environment, which is a development environment for testing framework, which is inside the Ethereum, which aims to make our what do you call to which aims to make this process more easier with Truffle. Truffle is a development environment, testing framework, and asset pipeline for Ethereum. With Truffle, you get built-in smart contract compilation, linking, deployment, and management. So in the next session, we will deploy the voting smart contract that we developed or I showed you as a demo in the morning session. We will deploy that in this Geth network and interact with it. So that for that, we need an environment called Truffle. So a total of 3 environments we need. We need to test it using Remix. We need to initialize Geth in our system to initialize a private blockchain network and to interact with the smart contract. We need to deploy it in the private blockchain. So that for that we have Truffle. So in the next session, we'll be doing that. That is tomorrow. So hope you all understood the session. Hereby winding up today's or the 4th session of Blockchain Explained. And thank you. If you have any questions regarding today's session, once again, I'm asking your kind apology. I'm asking for an apology for taking your time in making the mining process a bit more expensive or time taking. Sorry for that, but this was to explain you how much effort it takes to mine a block. Thank you. The
Thank you
commands
so much,
and
sir.
once again, the commands and notes for this session will be sent to you by today or by tomorrow's session to understand and try from your end for creating similar private blockchain networks. Okay, so Bhavna ma'am can continue what she was about to
Okay.
say.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time, and what you have shown us just by your laptop is very valuable for us. Thanks for this interactive, informative, and meaningful session. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll back in the next session in morning. Thank you so much, sir. And
Okay.
participants are requested to fill the feedback form. And the announcement for today is we'll have our next session in morning tomorrow, for which Google Meet link will be shared with you all in the WhatsApp group or via mail. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.